Am I the asshole for wanting to redecorate after my husband almost let me die? Hi, I'm new to Reddit here, so apologies for the inevitable missteps, please be kind. I am a 37-year-old woman married to a 42-year-old man. We live in a small home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, with my husband and 2 kids, ages 5 and 3. Just over a year ago, I woke to the most horrific, head-splitting pain of my life. It was so bad, turning my head was agony. Light felt like hot acid in my eyes, and the smallest noise made me feel like my head was going to explode. I woke my husband to tell him that he needed to take me to hospital immediately, as I was 99% sure I had meningitis. For context, I had had it before at age 14. I will never, ever forget that pain. The pressure behind your eyes and the neck pain is unlike anything I've ever experienced, and I've given birth twice. My husband and his family are lucky enough to be people who have very good health and as such, find it difficult to empathize at times with people that don't. Unfortunately, I am not one of those people. I have an autoimmune disease that affects my mouth and bowel. During times of particular stress, I will have flares that cause ulcers on my mouth, tongue, throat, and throughout my bowel. I get very tired and have bad stomach pain. Throughout my relationship, it has felt like my husband has often minimized or dismissed my health and said things like, "Oh, are you going to take another day off?" etc. He is very money-focused and has worked very hard throughout his life, another shared quality in his family, and so he would see my time off as a financial concern. Anyway, all of this to say, when I asked him to take me to the hospital, his response was to say something to the effect of, "Oh, you don't have meningitis, it's probably just a migraine, go back to sleep and you'll feel better." I tried this for about a minute and then told my husband that, "No, I really have to go to the hospital now." My husband then made a huge show of being really annoyed that he had to take me to the hospital. Our son, at the time, 4, has level 2 autism and severe ADHD. Behavioral issues are an ongoing significant struggle, and my daughter, at the time, 2, is a very boisterous toddler. Packing them up can be difficult, but in hindsight, I'm not really sure what he was even packing. Like, just pack them up and let's go was kind of the vibe being called for. He took so long, and I wasn't in any state to help him. I couldn't even open my eyes. I think in all, it was about 30 minutes. I think an important note to make here is that I'm fairly sure my husband is autistic. He is extremely tied to routines and doing what should be done. He doesn't deal well with changes, and I've seen him behave this way when we've gone away on trips previously and the house wasn't clean/tidied just right. House tidiness and cleaning is a huge deal for him. I was hoping my son's diagnosis would help my husband have some self-reflection, but sadly, this hasn't been the case. I know being autistic can make having personal insight hard, so I've gently tried to address it at various times with him. I have ADHD and would open with being vulnerable about various things that I'd observed in our son and how it made me see that these things weren't failures as a person but just a different way our brain worked, amusing difficulty at times. My husband would nod and agree mostly. Then I would ask if he felt XYZ autistic traits or changes in routine, things not being correct were very upsetting to him, and maybe we could work on this like how I work on my time management and impulsivity. His whole demeanor always immediately changes. He shuts down and says that just because I have problems doesn't mean everyone else does too. He's not autistic, he's just careful and precise. I do have empathy for him as I think he has an outdated idea of what autism is, i.e. antisocial, gamer etc., and he is an ex-rugby player, gym junkie. I tell him, I'm not trying to pathologize him, but it would help if he could recognize that some of these difficulties are limiting for us as a family and at times, make the kids, and I feel like we live in a museum where nothing can be moved or misplaced. Okay, so fast forward to me finally going to the emergency room. My husband, assuming we will be waiting for hours, has brought the bag he spent time packing for the kids, only to have me rushed in immediately. The nurse won't let my husband in as the kids are unfortunately going bananas, understandable, and they need supervision. I just tell him to go and I will let him know what is happening. The next part is a vague memory, but I had a spinal tap and CT of my brain. There was no brain bleed, thank God, so doctor said most likely meningitis. For antibiotics were started and I was given a morphine pump as I was by now, projectile vomiting from pain. During this time, my husband was calling my phone and leaving messages asking whether I would be at work tomorrow, and then when he couldn't get through, he called the hospital and a nurse held the phone up to my ear as I mumbled I was being admitted. Anyway, the spinal tap came back that I had meningitis as I had suspected. It was caused by a virus that causes gastro, but because the lining of my bowel was so impaired, it had gotten into my bloodstream and eventually into my spinal/brain covering layered. I was in hospital for 10 days. My husband came and apologized saying he just didn't think it was that serious, despite the fact that the hospital staff had rushed me in and I had also told him, repeatedly, how much I was suffering. Also, importantly, we both work in healthcare. Thankfully it was viral meningitis and not bacterial, something that is impossible to know until the tap comes back, hence them beginning the antibiotics immediately. Bacterial meningitis is deadly and the slightest delay in antibiotic treatment can mean the difference between life and death. However, because the pressure from my then swollen brain lining was so bad, I went on to develop serious complications that affect me to this day. I have chronic migraines, extreme fatigue and increased intracranial pressure. This last year, following my illness, the road to recovery has been slow and long. I can only work 10 hours a week. My special needs child is beautiful but hard at times to manage and I have a toddler. My husband unfortunately really dislikes his job and was hoping for some time to make a career change, however now with my decreased earning this isn't a possibility. He cares for the kids well, he struggled a lot at first but has worked on being more patient with them. Since being home, I found a lot of joy in being more creative. I love to paint, sew, and make things. I also planted a bunch of seeds in the garden at the start of spring and now have several beautiful flowering plants that I love to cut and arrange bouquets for around the house and give away to friends/family. Over this time, I have updated the house decor here and there. Nothing crazy or expensive. Anything I buy is from the thrift store, i.e. picture frames, vases etc. that I've used to update the style of the house. Again, none of these changes are massive and in fairness to my husband, I don't discuss them with him beforehand. I know I should but don't because the few times I have, he has just explained why I shouldn't and that we had a strict black and white aesthetic that we agreed upon when we moved in. I understand this was the style we liked when we moved in but my style and style in general has changed since then. I hate the idea that we have assigned ourselves a style that now may never be changed again. So now, anytime my husband comes home and sees something new I am making, that I've rearranged a shelf or cut flowers for the house, he instantly goes into a mood. I know it's annoying him and I don't want to hurt him. But it also feels controlling to have to seek permission to make small changes to the house that I now spend so much time in. I spoke to my neurologist and psychologist and they have both said that spending time in the garden, painting etc. are all healing for the brain/nervous system and I have tried to explain this to my husband but I think he sees it as time wasting and inconveniencing him with change and clutter. I don't really know what to do. I do understand where he is coming from and I'm not trying to upset him but I'd just like him to have some empathy for me too. I would attach some pictures, just realized I can't, to show what I've done around the house and that I'm not some crazy hoarder typing this from within a trash forte in my bedroom. We're talking, some pictures hung in the kids' rooms, of things they like/their interests, 2 small pictures hung on my side of the bed, cottage watercolor and landscape, small vases of flowers, books, only my ones, reordered, cute old vintage vases/tins to hold my paintbrushes and sewing pins etc. This was done over the span of a year of me recovering at home. Sorry for the lengthy post, if you've made it this far, thank you. I would really appreciate some honest feedback as I'm feeling quite unhappy and not sure where to go from here. I know that quibbling over decor may seem trivial but I guess we are disagreeing over something more fundamental than that, control, wanting to be heard/respected etc. So, am I the asshole for wanting to redecorate after my husband almost let me die? Am I the asshole for refusing to bend on my boundary about kids? I, 30F, have been seeing Ben, 32M, for a few months. On the 5th date, I brought up more topics from our dating profiles. I specifically asked his stance on children as his profile said he didn't have but was open to kids. Mine states don't have and don't want children. During the conversation, He stated he always saw himself as a father and hadn't ever considered not having any. I said I have no plans to have children as I live my child-free lifestyle. He started saying how cute my kid would be but was cut short when food came and the topic was dropped. A few days later he texted me about being quieter than normal and asked if it was the kid topic. I said I had been thinking about our conversation and don't think we are aligned long-term as he possibly wants children. So I don't think we should continue as I don't want to lead him on. He was upset and said he wouldn't date someone with kids but always assumed the women he did date would want them. He continued saying it was too early for those kinds of deep conversations and we should have waited. I stated it's a massive deal breaker for me as I'm currently taking steps to ensure I will not be able to have children in the future. He got more upset and compared it to me asking him to move across the country. That it isn't black and white and there are pros and cons to both. Ben went on to say the topic is layered and we know so little about each other but have potential, so don't throw away the whole relationship over small disagreements. I said I was getting the procedure done so children aren't a compromise situation for me and timing of the conversation wouldn't have changed my stance. Ben said I was drawing a very aggressive line for us. Ben stated we haven't built enough of a relationship for me to hear him and wants to continue the conversation in person instead of over text. Ada for the way I handled the situation? I don't want to continue knowing he possibly wants kids. I truly can't see where this is something that isn't black and white clear. Edit, we are not together anymore as this was the breakup text exchange.
One comment reads, "Not the asshole. You don't want kids and he does, why continue to see each other if you're not aligned long term? You did the right thing. Also, I don't like how he said it was too early to have that conversation. Why would you not make sure you're aligned early doors into a relationship? Again, you did the right thing, and not the asshole." Another comment reads, "Too early for you to have so much invested in the relationship that he can leverage into an ultimatum." A reply to that comment says my ex-husband tried to do that. He knew I didn't want kids but went along with it assuming I would change my mind or that he could convince me later. Eventually he brought it up in a really pushy way after we had been married 7 years. He stole my 20s without taking my decision seriously. The final comment says my ex did the same freaking thing. Was completely on board for not having kids. He never once expressed the desire to be a father. Hell, I had one pregnancy scare and it scared the life out of him. He was on board with me tying my tubes and everything. After roughly 8 years, and a year after I tied my tubes, he completely freaked out on me and told me I stole his chance at fatherhood. I'm still baffled by it. He also stole my 20s. Reply. I've had the opposite experience with a girl I dated. I was very adamant that I do not know or will never want children. We talked and talked. I spoke to her about it after about 5 years of dating and I got a vasectomy because she was coming off birth control for other reasons and I don't want an accident to happen. So I got snipped. Our relationship ended shortly after because she didn't think I was serious about it.
Am I the asshole for freaking out / drawing a line about my family hiding a big secret about my kid from me? My 2-year-old and 1-year-old woke up early in the morning with fever, cough, running nose, the whole bit, so I decided that I would take them to the doctors to get them checked out sooner rather than later. I live in a big family house with my in-laws, sister-in-laws, brother-in-law, cousins, uncles, grandparents. I was coordinating with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law that we needed to go to the doctors, just across the street. They agreed and we were all going together after breakfast. I told them I'll take a quick shower then we'll go. 10 minutes later I came out of the shower dressed and ready to go but my daughter and mother-in-law were nowhere to be found. My son was home but they were gone. My sister-in-law said she's at the doctor's with my daughter but I was confused since my son also needed to go and I was also coming, so why did they leave? My mother-in-law and I have a different native tongue so I thought there was a misunderstanding, so I said it's okay, I'll take my son later in the day. They were taking a long time to come home so I was calling and asking what's going on and they said my daughter is getting an IV just to rehydrate and she'll get medicine for her cold. I was at home with my son taking care of him because he was also sick. They eventually came home at night and my daughter was sleeping. She was prescribed meds for her cold and ear drops. It was around 6 p.m. the next day when I was putting my daughter's ear drops in and noticed her tongue looked very strange, like pieces of cotton or thread in her mouth. I called my mother-in-law and sister-in-law over and was saying her tongue looks infected and to check it. They froze and became silent, looking down and saying, "Actually, those are stitches she got yesterday from falling down the stairs, but we didn't tell you because you would be worried." I immediately freaked out on everyone to hide such a thing for more than 24 hours. They confessed everything. While I was in the shower, my daughter fell down the stairs while in grandma's care. The entire family was at the hospital and on the phone with my husband who's abroad. All of them 7 family members total came to agreement not to tell me what happened because I'd be so upset. I only found out by seeing her tongue stitches on my own. I told them accidents happen, but the lying is totally unbelievable, and how can that many family members be in agreement to keep this secret? I now told them they broke my trust completely, and if they can lie about such a big thing, they can lie about anything. I told them my kids will not be out of my sight from now on no matter what, and I don't care how they feel about that. Am I overreacting? I don't think so at all, but please give me perspective. Am I the asshole?
You are not overreacting. Plus, it's really odd how they were able to take your daughter to the doctor and consent for your daughter to get stitches. Find the doctor. Ask what happened and why they were treated without parental consent. They probably lied and stated that sister-in-law was you. OP replied, I agree completely. We are in South Asia and rules are much more relaxed here. My husband was on video chat with them and gave verbal consent, and that's about it. The original commenter replied, and he didn't tell you? Don't you have any value? OP replied, their excuse was that my husband was hysterical, so they didn't want us both to be hysterical at the same time. My husband is actually the one who told them not to tell me. So he's the real villain here in my opinion. Not the asshole. You are not overreacting. They should have told you what was going on. I find it so strange that they all chose to keep this from you. It's such a red flag. You have the right to know what's going on with your children at all times. They really messed up. I would never be able to trust them again. OP responds, yes, I agree with you. I told them they are not allowed to be alone with them anymore. They will be in my sight at all times. The commenter says no, you need to move out of that house with your children as they are not safe with those people at all.